episode number 2. I want to do something maybe a little bit different. I am here joined with my friend, Rob Modeszto. Rob, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Ray. Thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. I appreciate the enthusiasm. Rob is Rob is a success partner with Celebration Title. I know in the last episode I spoke with Lewis about Celebration and how great they're doing. He is with the new Tampa office, which just goes to show they're expanding all over the place. Tell us about what you do with Celebration Title.
Sure, yeah. So I like to say I'm the concierge for all things title and marketing for our agents. Especially in times like these, towards the end of the year when a lot of real estate is kind of on the downturn a little bit, things are slowing down. I think that you can agree with me working with Figueroa team. Celebration Title, we play a different ballgame than everybody else. We're over here taking the next step and making sure our agents are getting the most business that they possibly can and going strong into 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. Just joining this team, I can already tell like this. It's taking it to the next level.
There's a reason why our leadership get along so well, because they both have a similar mindset of just hammering away no matter what's going on. Growth is so important on both sides, whether it's the real estate side or the title side. So, that's why Figueroa team and Celebration have such a great connection.
I love it. Absolutely. So Rob, like I mentioned before, you're a good friend of mine, and most of our conversations are about fighting, the fight game, whether it's boxing, UFC, Bellator, whatever, right? So that's one of the reasons I want to have you on. You have been a fight fan for years. I've had you over at my house. I mean, for almost 10 years now. What's your experience in the combat sports arena?
Sure. Yeah. So my experience is I used to just get beat up by my friends when I was younger, and I became the sport in that route. I remember back in the days, back when Anderson Silva was at his prime, I had his posters all over my walls and everything. I worked for a equipment company that focused on MMA athletes pre-pandemic. So that only cemented my interest in the sport, even though I was already a huge super fan. And yeah, so I'm just a fan that enjoys watching and reveling at the athletes as they do their work.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So speaking of fights, we had some rather interesting fights over the weekend.
We did. We
Out
did,
of
Raymond.
the main card, I'm going to go straight into the UFC, right? Because I think
Okay.
that was the highlight of the weekend.
Sure.
What stood out for you?
So something that really stood out for me was the fact that I think we have the next great Mexican fighter in the UFC. Brandon Moreno, he has that kind of that dog mindset that you don't see with a lot of people. There's not a lot of people that can go 5 rounds with Davison Figueiredo just based on his size and his power. And Moreno was just eating shots. He's like a Julio Cesar Chavez out there. So I'm really excited to see his future and can't wait for the rematch here in the first quarter of 2021.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I was watching that first round, second round, I was like, damn, he's eating so many shots, but then he just kept coming back. And especially, I mean, for both of them coming off of 3 weeks of just fighting before, I mean, super impressive. What did you think about the draw?
I thought that it was, hindsight is 2020, of course. I thought at the time that Figueiredo won. However, I am happy that it was a draw because that gives it even more reason to sell more pay-per-views on the next time around. And hopefully those guys will make even more money just because of how good that fight was. I think that you can agree that some of these fighters maybe don't make as much money as they should. And so I'm hoping when you see a fight like that, that as many people see it and notice it and want to buy the next round of pay-per-views when they fight again.
Yeah, it definitely added hype to it. A lot of the times I feel like a draw is kind of like a downer, like, oh, we were disappointed in it. For me, as soon as the fight ended, I told my friends, I said, I think that might be a draw just because,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel it was perfect too because I don't feel comfortable saying either one of them lost.
Sure. Yeah. I'm very comfortable with draws. There's a stigma to them that I don't understand. So I don't know. I think I was happy with the draw. It's fine. Would I have given Figueiredo the fight? Probably, if I was there. But then again, maybe they were seeing angles that we didn't see that, Moreno had advantage in some of the rounds.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of tying this whole even division into like a business aspect, as I did before. Um, One of the values of this, I would say, is consistency, right? Um, Last October, I was over in Tampa and I watched Davison Figueiredo fight. And to me, he was another guy, right? And we're talking about a division that was almost scrapped, completely taken off. They would have been out of jobs. And with this guy fighting 4 times in 1 year, especially back-to-back pay-per-views on 3 weeks' notice, I think everybody is tuning in to the Davison Figueiredo show and the Brandon Moreno show.
Not just a guy. Davison Figueroa wasn't just a guy. He was also a guy who couldn't make weight.
Yeah,
He missed weight a few times, and it was just like, what is this guy's deal? He's going to go up to 135 and fight, and he probably would be as dominant as he is now at 135. Those guys may be a little bit bigger than him, but he has the skill and the well-roundedness to do very well at 135. But yeah, he was just a name. It's hard with these guys. They don't get marketed as much when they don't speak English. It's really unfortunate because you have these great fighters that just can't really market themselves, and the UFC doesn't do them any favors either. So it's interesting to see the path that he took over the last 12 months.
yeah. I think what you mentioned, when you don't speak English, you have to go another route, which is the old saying, the skills pay the bills.
Yep.
And when he missed weight that first time against JB, beat
Yep.
him up, and then he had to do it again, unfortunately, because that second fight was just, oh my gosh, like,
It was an execution. Yeah.
yeah, basically. And then the impressive performance the last time, and just an excellent fight this time. I think everyone's on board with that. And speaking of excellent performances, let's move on to the
Kevin
co-main
Holland.
event.
Oh,
Well,
or that performance. Yeah.
both
Any
of
of
them.
them.
Yeah, yeah. We'll go
Yeah.
down.
It was
We'll get to Kevin in a second.
overall from top to bottom. It was a great card. I mean, let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 stoppages. Actually, 6 stoppages on the entire card. Most of them being TKOs or KOs. So from top to bottom, it was a great performance. And you look at a guy like Oliveira, who fought an always tough Tony Ferguson, who's another guy who's like a savage, has that same mindset as Brandon Moreno, and he just kind of schooled Tony Ferguson. Who knows if Tony Ferguson's right? Mentally, physically. I had sent something to you earlier in the week about him saying that he deserved a title shot, even though he had just gotten beat up by Justin Gaethje his last fight. So it's an interesting spot that he's in, and I'm kind of interested to see what they do with him in the future.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of variables, a lot of factors that could have went into it. But I feel like a lot of times, we could look into, oh, what did Tony not do right? But we won't know those, right? But when we do look at what Charles did do right, I mean, this was, and it goes back into the consistency thing, right? This is a guy who 3 years ago was 2-4 out of his last 6. Now
Yeah.
he's on an 8-fight win streak, 7 of those being stoppages, and one of them being a total domination against the boogeyman.
Yeah. He's really rounded out his skills. Before, he used to just be a submission guy, and now you can see his stand up has just like went leaps and bounds of what it used to be. So he's a real tough guy in the division. No one's really talking about him. He's a bit of a dark horse. So when they start sorting things out here in quarter one after the Poirier and McGregor fight, I'm interested to see where he lands. I think maybe he'll get somebody like the winner. If Gaethje fights Chandler, I think maybe the winner of that fight would be a good fight. I know I'd said earlier to you also, a Dan Hooker would be a great fight as well. So we'll see. He's got a bright future.
Yeah, I think a lot of those fights would be appropriate. But I guess we'll touch up on that at the time being. Now, Kevin Holland, who you had just mentioned.
You don't see too many knockouts like that. Raymond. I thought that when you see those knockouts where it's like a spinning back fist or like an up kick and they just go to sleep, you're like, what in the world did I just see?
Yeah.
And you had one of those moments again this past weekend. So when you beat an old wily vet like Jacare, you get respect from me, because those guys have been through it and have taken shots from everybody. And when he kind of touched him with that lightning bolt, he went right to sleep. Jacare did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just another, like you said, one of those unconventional knockouts, especially on the ground with Jacare, which everyone's afraid of being in that position.
Yeah. Of somewhere where you wouldn't normally think of any power shots coming from. Like, how did he get any power behind that whatsoever? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, that's why they fight and I don't.
Well, and he plays right into the consistency factor as well. I mean, that's his fifth fight this year. When you fight 5 times in one calendar year, I mean, the last time I really remember that was back in like 2015 when Cowboy was fighting 5 times in one year. He's like one of the names that just comes to my head right away, and that's where it makes it easy to be a fan.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's why I had spoken to you earlier about Hamza Shimaev. People are really jumping on that train now because he's fought however many times now this year. I think 4. And it seems like he's fighting every 3 weeks. So yeah, that consistency not only in the athlete side but in the business side as well. That's something that I know you and I have really taken a focus to, especially going into 2021, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to boost our business.
Right, that's what it's all about. Um,
Right.
Now, on the other hand, we had another fight over the weekend. My man AJ Anthony Joshua. I feel like it's almost a different story because with that, he fought Pulev. It was a mandatory. We thought exactly what it was is what it was. Like it's going to be a tough fight. I guess a tough test, you would say. He's a durable guy, but Anthony Joshua should knock him out, and that's exactly what happened. Was it exciting? Yes. Is it what we're looking to see right now? I think everyone knows what we're looking to see right now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the heavy. Let's be honest. The heavyweight division is passing Anthony Joshua by. When you have guys like Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder just knocking people out left and right and talking a lot of smack and really earning those pay per view buys. Guys like Anthony Joshua don't really have that type of personality, and a lot of the time he's a very technical fighter, so he's not always as exciting as those other two gentlemen. Uh, you hate to see it, but it seems like he's kind of getting passed by some of the names that are coming out of the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I feel like he's still selling, right? But that's based off of name and based off of country, right?
Sure.
They're gonna stick by their guy, but for how long, right? So that's where these fights need to be made. In the meantime, you have on the other hand these UFC fights that we're talking about. We could talk all day if we wanted to about these, because a guy like Figueiredo, who people weren't paying attention to last year, is doing this kind of stuff. Yet in the heavyweight division of boxing, the bread and butter of boxing, you got this kind of nonsense going on. So I'm just kind of hopeful, optimistic that they will make that Tyson Fury fight, and I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, that's a beautiful thing about UFC that you don't see in boxing is that Dana White's the biggest fight fan one of the biggest fight fans that there ever was. So he wants to see guys match up. Whereas you have the greedy guys in boxing who just want to make a dollar. Granted, Dana White wants to make a dollar too, but he also loves to watch the fights, and he's always going to put up what the fans want. We just don't see that in boxing anymore.
Yeah. So hopefully we will. Fingers crossed. I'm not going to hold my breath. But Mr. Modesto, I think that about covers it for today. And we got some fights coming up this weekend too. So, maybe we can do this next week as well.
Raymond Roberts, I appreciate it, and we will link up next week to talk some more fights. Thank you very much.
Tremendous.
Tremendous.